Good morning, everyone. I am a little more delayed than what I have been over the last few weeks in doing this live video for the Q&A series. So I wanted to get that done as early as I could today. That being said, if you're joining me, thank you so very much for taking just a few moments out of your day to listen to what I have to say when it comes to today's question. And that's, what do you do with your overly aged essential oils or those essential oils that have expired? I can tell you over more than a decade has gone by that I've heard a lot of different things that people like to use their aged essential oils for. And when I use the term age, I'm not talking about patchouli, I'm not talking about alligator juniper or myrrh or even sandalwood. I'm talking about lemon, grapefruit, those essential oils that have a really short shelf life. And so it's important to understand first that essential oils do have a shelf life, just like we do. I mean, there's not one thing that we eat that doesn't have a shelf life. And the same is true of everything that comes from nature. Everything has a shelf life, literally, even the medications that we get over the counter. And so with that being said, there's a lot to understand when it comes to why an essential oil has aged. And a lot of that has to do with oxidation. It changes the chemistry. And when you start talking about changing the chemistry of an essential oil, you talk about a change in therapeutics. You're talking about a change in what it may or may not do to your skin. So I tend to sell my oils, and once they reach a certain point where they're no longer viable, they get removed from availability. You can no longer purchase them. I don't even sell them so that people can use them for anything outside of what they've already purchased. And here's why. When you start looking at the different chemical constituents that make essential oils, some of them tend to change so much during oxidation and after, if you will, that they're no longer safe for the skin. And if they're no longer safe for the skin, then it's really difficult to say that, yeah, we're going to use them therapeutically, because we're not. It's just not safe to do so. And so when we're talking about how can we use our essential oils that have expired, honestly, it's a tricky question. And like I said, we're not going to use them topically because obviously there's some skin sensitizations that can and do occur, especially for oils like lemongrass, who we recognize those already as sensitizing oils. So let's say you want to use them as cleaners. I would normally say, yeah, that's fine, but what if you're using lemon? A lot of the constituents within lemon, once they've started to oxidize and they've hit that point of no return that you can't use them topically, and you don't want to use them in a diffuser, you're not going to want to use them in cleaning your counters either. And this goes even if you're using gloves. And the reason why is because you're still inhaling those constituents that can cause damage. So the safe answer, how do you use those essential oils that have expired? You really shouldn't be, especially if you've noticed that there is a significant difference in their aroma. It's incredibly important to understand that essential oils, while they are somewhat seen as a natural product, they are composed of many different chemical constituents that give them those therapeutic properties of being relaxing and soothing and whatnot. And once you start changing those chemical constituents, they lose their therapeutics, and then they venture into the realm of just plain not safe. I can't express that any other way. There was also another piece of the question that was asked, can they be composted? This is where we really start looking at something that is foreign to a lot of individuals, and that's called an SDS. An SDS is a safety data sheet, and they used to be called material safety data sheets, or MSDS. And those sheets do one particular thing that it's important not only to someone who's using them on a daily basis, but someone who may be cleaning with them, someone who may be storing them in bulk, and even shipping. And what they do is they tell the user, one, whether they're safe or not to use on the skin, whether they're flammable, which essential oils tend to be really flammable, and what kind of methods are required to clean up spills, and are they toxic to the environment? That's right, they do a lot. And as much as I would love to just share out a short and simple SDS, there really isn't, because there's a lot of information that goes into them. And when you start talking about composting an essential oil, you have to understand that if an essential oil has an SDS, which all of them do as long as they have a CS number, and I can explain that in a whole different blog later, but these SDS sheets, hold on one second, guys, not right now, honey. Sorry, we're homeschooling, so I'm taking a break from that. The important thing to understand with these SDS sheets is if they're talking about an essential oil having a toxicity to the environment, you don't want to compost them. Because as I mentioned, if it's expired, we're not going to be using it in our diffuser. We certainly don't want to be putting that into the environment. And even more so, we don't want to run the risk of putting it into our ground, into our running water. And so if we're not going to do that with our essential oils that are not expired, we're not going to be using them in compost when it comes to expired oils, because they do have a small level of toxicity. We already have enough going on the planet. We really need to reduce our use and our risk as much as possible when it comes to those toxic items. And essential oils do fall under that when it comes to environmental concerns. So what can you do that's safe? A lot of communities, specifically larger cities, but even in the smaller areas, the urban areas of cities now, have put in place procedures where you can take your expired essential oils to a specific drop-off location. And this is really an amazing thing. Not every town is going to have it, but it's something you need to look into, especially if you are using them in bulk. And that's what I do. And so I know in my area, it took a long time for them to get that, but I now have a place where I can go and I list everything that's there. And if they ask me for an SDS sheet, I have it. And I say, here's, expired essential oils. They can no longer be used. And they know from those SDS sheets how they would be used, or how they would be handled rather, if they were not expired. And so they take those and it goes into a proper waste disposal unit for chemicals, because that's what essential oils are, they're chemicals. So that is the long and short of what I would do with expired essential oils and what I feel is best for the environment and also for you. If you have any questions on this, please reach out to me and ask. There's so much that goes into the chemistry of essential oils, and I want you to have as much knowledge as possible when you're using them, whether they're expired or not. All right, that's it. Have a great day, guys. I'm gonna go see what my kiddos need, and I will touch base with you later. Oh, and don't forget, there is a Labor Day weekend offer going on now. 18% off, code Labor Day. Bye.